bracing for more flooding after last night's rushing water killed at least one person in Poudre Canyon. Colorado is sitting on a ton of soon-to-be expired vaccines. Maybe we could send them to the countries where people still want to protect themselves against COVID-19. The current phase of the pandemic is leading to higher cases, not necessarily high hospitalizations. Let's look at which number to focus on these days. Our new state historian would like a word.
There's maybe an underappreciation or a sense that our history is not valued as much because it's not so much in the public.
And a very public roundup when working animals walk off the job. That's next. Clock's ticking on more than 300,000 doses of vaccine in Colorado. They will expire in the next 2 months. And unvaccinated Coloradans are not exactly beating down the door to get them. Our Steve Steger asked the governor, if Coloradans don't want vaccine protection against COVID, how about sending those shots overseas where people are desperate to get vaccinated?
Remember the days when the COVID-19 vaccine was so hard to find, back when we showed you that awkward photo op of the first doses arriving here, and when we reported the number of doses shipped to the state each week like sports scores? We learned today that the state hasn't gotten a shipment of COVID-19 vaccines in more than a month, and that the state health department says 352,000 of the doses sitting on Colorado shelves right now are set to expire sometime in the next 60 days.
We are always hopeful that the FDA will verify that, in fact, they last longer than originally indicated on the label.
Today, Governor Polis told me most of those doses are reserved for people to get their second shot.
Roughly 200,000 of those doses, and we'll get you the exact number, are second doses for people that receive their first dose. I expect that they will be used in relatively high numbers in the 90s.
They got me a closer number.
About 237,000.
Heather Roth is the immunization branch chief for Colorado's health department. She says there are 237,000 people in Colorado who haven't received their second dose yet. About 90,000 of them are still within the 42-day window allowed for second doses of both Moderna and Pfizer, meaning nearly 150,000 either went beyond that allotted 42 days or
They actually may have already been fully vaccinated and received, either their first or second dose outside of the state.
They're holding on to enough doses for those folks to get a second shot just in case. And both Roth and the governor are confident Colorado will be able to use all those doses before they expire. But if they can't,
so we can give them back to the federal government, where they have a program where they donate them overseas. And we would have to do that a few weeks before they expired.
as for now, the state's not expecting to make another order to the federal government for a while. In fact, they may not order vaccine until it's approved for 6 through 11-year-olds, potentially in the fall or winter. And there is this optimism, Kyle, that they will be able to administer these doses, these 352 doses, before they expire. Both the immunization chief said that and the governor.
Optimism is always great. There's also realism. I mean, we look at the impacts of the $1 million vaccine sweepstakes. Of dubious impact, although I should say, probably shouldn't knock people for trying, especially when they can try at no additional cost to taxpayers. That was money that was given to Colorado. Now they're moving on to a new round of incentives with the hopes that those incentives might appeal to other people.
Yeah, the governor announced today $100 gift cards to Walmart for folks who get vaccinated at certain sites across the state this week. The hope is, maybe if it's a family, mom and some kids, mom and dad and some kids, they might all consider getting vaccinated because they could get up to $400 at Walmart.
Yeah, $300-400 is no joke, and it's money in the hand as opposed to a chance. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Steve. You know, we haven't checked out our vaccine picture in a little while. We are past 3 million vaccinated Coloradans, almost 52% of the state population now. And if you're thinking, that looks like about the same number as it was a couple of weeks ago, you are correct. And that's the problem. So more than 56% of Coloradans have at least one shot, so there's hope that they'll come back for another and we could at least get up to that level. We are also seeing our COVID case count in Colorado headed up, our test positivity rate as well. That does not mean, though, that we need to be particularly concerned, because now we have half the population vaccinated, including the most vulnerable. The state epidemiologist, Rachel Hurley, he said today that they are monitoring the places where case counts are rising. No surprise, tends to be where vax rates are low. And the old number to watch from the worst part of the pandemic is still the number to watch.
all along, we've really continued to have hospitalizations as our North Star, ensuring that we had enough capacity for all Coloradans that might need to access, higher levels of care in our hospitals, whether that might be for COVID-19 or for anything else.
We also asked Dr. Herlihy about the accuracy of test positivity rates as a metric now, considering how few tests are being performed as opposed to earlier in the pandemic. Is 5% still the line where public health leaders start to get worried?
We do see that number continue to track closely with our case counts. It provides us really a check to understand, are we seeing case counts go up just because testing is going up? Or are we seeing case counts go down just because testing is going down? And so it really provides a check on the data for us.
One important note, Dr. Herlihy was saying that it's not particularly useful to compare our current test positivity rates to what we were seeing like of July of last year because the testing gap is so large. She says what's more important in their perspective is to look at recent trends in positivity to see how they're moving over several weeks or several months. There are 3 people still missing after last night's mudslide and flash flooding up in Poudre Canyon. The body of a woman who was killed was recovered today, and the sheriff's office has closed that river down due to the threat of more rain. Nobody can go in it for any reason. People in the canyon last night were watching buildings, or what was left of them, come downstream last night. 5 buildings were lost along Black Hollow Road near Rustic. Divers also spent the day checking to see if anybody was inside a car stuck in the river. The trouble began on the Cameron Peak Fire burn scar, where the soil is primed to slide and primed for flooding. Campers in that area were evacuated last night, and those campsites are closed today. There are burn scars like that across Colorado, many of them still popular camping spots. And it's up to campers to do the research and to know the risks. Here's meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen.
The campgrounds in Poudre Canyon were open Tuesday night when light rain turned into a raging debris flow. A fresh wildfire burn scar can quickly turn light rain into dangerous flooding, but not everyone is aware of that risk.
We're not from a mountainous area. We don't know what it's like when a river valley floods.
The Becks are from Lincoln, Nebraska. They set up their campsite in Poudre Canyon Tuesday night completely unaware of the danger. The U.S. Forest Service runs the campgrounds that go right through the middle of the Cameron Peak burn scar. They decided to reopen the campgrounds on May 26 and posted information on their website about the flood risk and burn scars. They recommend checking their website for weather and campsite conditions before heading into the canyon. In other words, there can be many hazards that come with camping in the Colorado mountains. It's up to each individual to learn about those risks. Meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen for Next.
Forest Service is meeting now to determine what to do with the campsites in Poudre Canyon. They may close them for the time being, or they might start shutting them down every time there's a lot of rain in the forecast, like the way that CDOT has started closing I-70 preemptively through Glenwood Canyon. Speaking of, I-70 is still closed through Glenwood Canyon after it was shut down last night. Again, that's right next to another burn scar. CDOT says today that we should expect to have these types of closures ongoing through the end of July, on and off. Last night's closure on 70 through Glenwood Canyon is the 8th shutdown in less than a month. The mud and soil actually came down last night. They're trying to clear away mud and debris left by 5 different mudslides. 3 came down on the eastbound lanes, 4th on the westbound lanes, and a 5th is covering the Bear Ranch off-ramp. Bottom line on Glenwood Canyon, if your travel plans take you through there anytime soon, you have to be prepared to wait out lengthy delays or be prepared for the hours-long detour route. Whatever you do, check the weather before you go. The pandemic really scrambled the job market, and it led to a lot of Coloradans looking for something new, something more rewarding, something more stable. There's a longtime nonprofit in the metro area helping people leverage their existing skills into something more. So that nonprofit is in high demand these days. It's why your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week will help expand the work of Mikasa Resource Center, which guides families to more successful futures through their free and their low-cost career programs. For 45 years, Mikasa has been helping underserved communities in the metro area, primarily Latinas, through in-depth entrepreneurship education and job retraining to help women pursue careers that will change their lives and change the trajectory of their families. The pandemic inserted uncertainty, but also determination among the women who turned to Mikasa, determination to shift gears into a better career. So they're getting personal one-on-one direction from experts, whether it's Mikasa's Women's Business Center, where hundreds of women plan and launch their small businesses each year, or the program to help low-income inventors get patents, or Mikasa's newest program, La Receta, the recipe. It helps entrepreneurs build food businesses or grow the business that they already have. Mikasa has a proven model that has worked in our community for decades, and it has never been more needed. If you text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, I'll send you that link to donate. Even $5 helps when we do this together. And as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5. Mikasa is helping women of color come out of the pandemic with pathways to greater success. And we all have a chance to be part of that. Thanks so much. Hey, quick note. Next will be an Olympic sport starting next week. We are moving from our normal 6 p.m. time slot during the Olympics, and instead we will be live each night after Olympic competition wraps up on 9 News. Next at Night starts Monday, July 26. Same channel, different time, new spandex uniforms.
By promoting, that we all explore our histories, I'm really hoping to get people to see that our history is very valuable to the state.
Colorado's next historian hopes young Coloradans see a bit of themselves in her and that it inspires people to dig deeper into our history. A great escape in Boulder County leads to a roundup in the city and a question. Whose goats are these? And Colorado is getting a ton of space bases. They were bases we had, but now they're spacier. Next. The Esplanade outside East High School in Denver. I try to guess what each of these locations is because sometimes I get them wrong and then you email me. So this will take some getting used to, but Buckley and 3 other Air Force bases in Colorado are getting spacey on us. Buckley, Peterson, Schreiber, and Cheyenne Mountain will now be called Space Force bases. Space Command. Buckley Space Force Base, Peterson Space Force Base, Schreiber Space Force Base, and Cheyenne Mountain Space Force Station. That one's the tricky one. They're all deep in the space business already, or what the Air Force is now going to call space. Peterson's home to Space Operations Command. Schreiber hosts the Joint Task Force Space Defense. Cheyenne Mountain, they won't tell us, but it has to do with space. They're officially renaming those bases on Monday.
Concerns for flash flooding and mudslides tonight across the higher terrain with slow-moving storms tracking further east this afternoon. Flash flood warning out for the Idaho Springs area. We're also watching the Poudre River area where we saw the extensive flooding last night along County Road 14. Flash flood watch on I-70, and some of those thunderstorms are moving off the foothills into Denver. We might actually get some beneficial rain here. I-70, again, scattered rain showers on the Glenwood Canyon area, something we need to continue to monitor. And those flash flood advisories will continue for about a third of our state tonight and again tomorrow. The storms move through tonight, and then we're left with just enough moisture for isolated storms as we get into the afternoon on Thursday. 65 tonight with a chance for rain. Tomorrow, sunshine and 92. We get into the weekend with cooler temperatures in the 80s and a good chance of rain from storms on Saturday.
The most Colorado thing we saw today is a goat escape. Rest easy, Nuggets fans. Nikola Jokic isn't going anywhere. Actual goats escaped from Boulder County open space area last night. How does anything escape from open space? Seems to defy the definition. But anyway, food for thought. Speaking of food, goats were eating unwanted vegetation as they are brought in to do, but they decided to skedaddle off the job site and they wandered into Superior. Deputies rounded them up, brought them back to the open space property where they penned them in. So it's no longer open space, is it? I digress. They're still trying to find the goat owner. Historical documentation and historic representation.
Through this position, I can promote the use of history as a tool to guide us into some really difficult conversations that we need to have.
A woman making history as the keeper of our state's history and the current day conversations she says are necessary. Next. Colorado's next state historian grew up in Denver. She teaches history at Regis, expert on the American West. And she'll take over a position that was first established in 1924. In the 97 years since, it has never been held by a Latino, until now.
I would say that I've probably been a historian since I was like 5 years old. So I've always loved history. My name is Nikki Gonzalez, and I'm going to be the Colorado State historian. I firmly believe that knowledge of our history, and in this case our state's history, the history of where we're living, is essential to understanding our present moment. Bring attention to the under-recognized stories of our state, to promote those, especially through like a social justice lens, and also to involve the youth. So I'm very interested in getting kids interested in the history of the state and in their own histories. I think in particularly more historically marginalized communities, there's maybe an underappreciation or a sense that our history is not valued as much because it's not so much in the public. And so by promoting, that we all explore our histories, I'm really hoping to get people to see that our history is very valuable to the state. We're formative to this state. So I guess I hope that my presence in this position will, inspire people to consider history a little bit more.
Dr. Gonzalez sharing her perspective with our photojournalist Mike Grady. She starts her year-long role as Colorado State historian on August 1st. If you have parked close enough to the entrance for the front door to open and hit your vehicle, you've crossed a line. Bring back the bad park jobs segment. Ashley emailed us from Crested Butte. Ashley, our pleas for better parking etiquette in this state did not go away entirely, but these days the example has to be really egregious to top what we've already seen. This driver might have done it, crossed a couple of lines and up onto the sidewalk for what appears to be the VIP parking at Majestic Plaza. Hope this makes you feel better if you were ever worried you were too close to the line to give your neighbor room to open the door. I'm not sure they can open the door to the plaza. If you see a truly jaw-dropping line crossing in Colorado, email next@9news.com or give us a shout with the hashtag #HeyNext. Helping low-income Coloradans find new, more fulfilling, more rewarding careers. We're doing it. $5 at a time tonight, we're helping a determined group, mostly women, launch their own small businesses. Next. You think Mikasa Resource Center was created to help Coloradans recover from the pandemic. Fact is, Mikasa's been around for 45 years, helping underserved communities, primarily Latinas, turn their talents into their own small businesses and new careers. And Mikasa's all kinds of in demand right now because people are deciding to go in different career directions after the economy got so scrambled. Mikasa's there with the free and low-cost career retraining, entrepreneurship education. It's help converting people's existing skills into stable income and growing new ones. This is the kind of stuff that changes lives, and it leads families to new success and stability. If you text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491, I'll send you the link to join me and a bunch of other people in donating to this week's Word of Thanks campaign. Bunch of emails about vaccines tonight. Dave wrote in about the J&J vaccine. Oliver as well, both with the same thought. Oliver saying, already had my J&J vaccine in March, going tomorrow to get my second Pfizer shot. Double protection if nobody else is going to use them. So here's the deal. I was open with you guys that I got the J&J one-shot vaccine, so I've been watching very carefully the research on this. So far, inconclusive about a booster. I'll make you the same promise I did before. When I make a decision, I'll tell you what it is. You can make your own choice after that. See you next time.